Meeting in Macau. She is in Macau. It is slow and humid. That's why it still exists. There are shades of green and pink and ochre on the facades, all washed out. There are dashes of white also, often moldy. The trees have taken human shapes, especially the roots. Maybe because of the seasonal typhoons. The leaves, however, are lace-like. The shadows on the ground look like a wedding gown. Something in her asks, "Is that the Macau you've been waiting for?" She has traveled so many times in her dreams to the port that stands at the doors of China. In the past, it was said to be, for a while, the only place where one could easily get a glimpse of Chinese land. Not so long ago, in fact, during the Cultural Revolution, somewhere over there, at the other end of the isthmus, China, the land behind a locked door. He had once told her, "There is a word that says Macau. It is confusao, the Portuguese for confusion. In Macau, you have to lose your way to find yourself in the right place." She didn't fly. There is no airport in Macau. Not yet. One still has to follow the rhythm of waves to arrive there. The door to China isn't so tight anymore, but the sea still remains the only real open road available. Macau's travelers are among the most famous in the world. They are sailors. They first met in Cairo, one of those impromptu encounters that brings a breath of fresh air to life. The visit to Cairo, which she had expected to be bugged with touts of all sorts, had turned into a dream. At the end of those few days together, he had said, "We will meet again if you want, in Macau, where the water has the color of pearls. My boat should stay there for a while next year. I will wait for you on the terrace of the Bella Vista Hotel. If it is sunny, they take out pink parasols to put over the tables. The hotel is green and white, very old, a bit run down maybe. The colors are very nice, faded, pastel-like." She can see now the flow of pearls he was talking about. Under the grey sky, the water becomes pink and cream and grey too. It has the milky quality and the luster of mother of pearl. In Macau, the sea is tinted by the depth of China, particles of land that traveled a long way where the water flows. It's funny they end here, in the city of the name of God. It has been raining for a few days. They haven't taken out the pink parasols yet. Still, there is the green and the white of the arcades overlooking the sea. There is the panorama that gives its name to the hotel. At night, dinner is served with candlelight on the table. There is a band playing romantic songs as well. Beyond the arcades, the void of the night is shattered by the blinking lights of the casinos on the other side of the bay. And then, there are also the moving lights of the ferries at sea somewhere further. The human passion for gambling keeps them sailing around the clock. These are the games of Macau. Did she come to play games? Somehow, she supposes yes. Seen from her homeland, Macau had always been associated with the sleaziness of gambling houses. The smoky atmosphere of long nights spent around tables dressed in green cloth, girls with red sequin dresses. But she didn't come to play that sort of game. Things are somehow different anyway, more commercialized. She was told that Stanley Ho, the king of this gambling empire, provides compulsive gamblers with a free return ticket to Hong Kong when they have come to lose the last dollar. She hopes she will be granted similar kindness should her emotional gamble fall through. There never was any letter. No news, no date, nothing. She left with his promise and her wish to meet him again in Macau. Reading about the history of that piece of Portugal lost on the coast of the China Sea, she learned that the official name, City of the Name of God, Macau, there is none more loyal, was given in the 17th century when Portuguese rule was re-established. For 60 years, the motherland's throne was occupied by a foreign king, but Macau had always proudly flown Portugal's flag. She knew roughly the time of the year his boat would be anchored there. If loyalty did exist, he would be there. She packed a bag and left. Since then, she has also discovered that, true enough, the original name was actually based on the name of God, only it was the name of a Chinese god, Ama, the goddess of the sea. Her temple, 600 years old, the oldest in town, still stands, not far from the ferry to Canton. She was there the other day and saw the stone carving of the Chinese junk said to have carried the goddess through typhoons and storms to Macau, where she ascended to heaven. Probably the romantic appeal of this goddess of seafarers and fishermen appealed to the Portuguese mariners. In 1557, they named the earliest European settlement in China after her, Amagao, the Bay of Ama. Ascension to heaven? Could that be her way out of the colony too? He also said once, Macau is red and green. Red and green, the flag in the sky, over the governor's palace, over the 3 fortresses and the pointed cannons. The strength, or at least the show of strength, of a foreign power over a foreign land. Red and green as well, the uniforms of the soldiers at the end of the Istmo Ferreira do Amaral. After the stucco gateway, there lies the land of the People's Army. Red and green, the facades. She remembers the symbolism of colors, from the red being to the green being, from the power of blood to the plenty of rebirth. That's probably the game she came to play. She has been here for a while now, or maybe a few weeks, taking the time to lose her way, for there are still no signs of the boat. Inside the hotel, it is red and cream. There are lots of pictures on the Napoleonian conquests. The hotel was built by the British, but ended up in the hands of a Chinese who admired the Corsican emperor. Something to talk about when she will remember her stay there. True enough, she had to admit that things were a bit confusing. Chinese waiters and contrasting olive oil on the tables of the restaurants were among the daily signs of a long cohabitation. Preserved moments of China in the alleyways were followed by blocks of Latin on the esplanades. She followed those oscillations between worlds and times as an inspiration to guide her walks. Even seen from above, the city didn't seem to really know its directions. Skyscrapers, to which she could be oblivious on the maze at street level, were suddenly crowding the horizon, deceiving Macao. What did she expect anyway? A time capsule where she could wait and wait? A dream withheld by the memory of books? The fortress of beautiful promenades, overlooking the city skyline, and further up, the silhouettes of hills on the mainland's coast. A memorable setting for what became her first Chinese sunset. One afternoon, she went to walk by the Hong Kong ferry terminal, the only thread left to the open world. She was not even thinking of leaving, not yet. She had by now decided that she wouldn't go back this way, one way or another. No, she went there to look at the lines painted on the road nearby, the starting and finishing point of the car race. Macau Grand Prix, Formula 3 only, but also one of the very few in the world to take place in the city. She tries to imagine the fury and sound of mechanical power released free in the streets under the bright blue sky of November. Madness overtakes the place, and there is no running away from it. It is there and can be heard from everywhere. Not to mention the crowd. Hotels are full, people from all over the world. A real carnival. She must go to Brazil one day. Her favorite moments are passed in one garden or another. They are small, but admirably landscaped. She likes the narrow paths winding through groves of bamboo and flowering bushes of the low-limb lock garden, the ponds, the lotus, the carps, the shaped rocks, the columns of the mansion built by a wealthy Chinese merchant who made his fortune along with the taipans. The flamboyant western house is only exceeded by a 9-turn bridge that zigzags across the pond. Evil spirits, as all Chinese know, can only move in straight lines. Most of all, she likes the Camel's Grotto, the little square with the large banyan trees at the entrance, and the fortune tellers in their shade before the grills. The hill with the bust of the poet in a grotto, the birds, the many songs that fill the air, and the patience of the men standing a few steps away. She's learned a lot just by watching them. They come every day with their cages covered by a cloth. Who really wants to be set free? The story goes that when Portugal went through its own socialist revolution, Macao was offered back to China in an attempt to end the colonial past of the country. The offer was kindly declined as too rushed. There was still a good 2 decades to go before the end of the contract. Why such a hurry? Weren't there still plenty of opportunities and advantages for both countries in the current situation? Things just settled back to colonial status quo. They are expected to remain so till the end of the century. Exactly. She's been here long enough now to say a friendly hello to the fruit seller at the corner of the arcade on the square opposite the Lille Senado. She stops there on her way to St. Paul, where she goes to face the silent question of this Baroque facade, erected with nothing but empty sky behind it. Destroyed by a fire during a typhoon, the facade of the church was left standing as an antique backdrop. The long staircase that leads to the structure makes the place all the more surreal. She walks all the way through the busy little streets full of transactions of all sorts, and comes to sit there to watch the coming and going of the crowd. She calls it the Macao Theatre. There are strange mélanges in Macao. It isn't just the cultures that influence each other. The people too had their part to play. Those 400 years of open pot brought a bit of everything from every corner of the world to Macau. She likes the idea of a visage in which she can see traces of East, shapes of West, and sometimes even a dash of yet again another place. By now, she knows. She recognizes during her walks the blue patterns of the tiles on the walls of Portuguese buildings and the pink thread of the brick walls in the old Chinese town. She has gotten used to the smell of food left to dry in the streets. She even dares to enter mysterious temples and go right through to the backyards where interesting things happen. She has mingled with the crowd coming out of church. She hasn't been to the Paris Crazy Horse Show, but she has seen the fever in the eyes around the tables in dim light. Most of all, she keeps spending a lot of time sitting on the terrace where he said he would meet her. They have finally taken out the pink parasols, and she concurs silently that the place has indeed a wonderful feel under the bright sun. She follows intensely the changes of the hue over the sea channel between Macau and the island of Taipa. With the sun shining, the long and thin bridge across the horizon between the mainland and the island stand out as a white slash. With the rain, the already silent coming and going of the ant-like vehicles driven across disappear totally in the grey curtain of hanging clouds. She reads, waiting for Godot to kill time. She finally made some friends. One day, invited for dinner, she met 2 nuns from France. They shared a little house in the slums, over there, nearby the border with China. Missionaries living among refugees. They had been in Macau long enough to remember lots of histories and forgotten some other things, like the taste of bread. They ate rice only. They laughed and joked a lot. Home was where the heart is. If only she could forget the calendar. One day, one way or another, it would be time for her to go back.